What's going on, Fortnite fam? After Major 2, that one was an absolute movie, and we continue the FNCS journey to the Global Championship. We got the Last Chance Global Qualifier coming up, and already our top 50 teams are set. We're missing out on a few big names, and almost missed out on more throughout the 3 different rounds and 2 different qualifiers. Who's going to be playing where, what teams are contested, and who do I think will qualify? There's 2 spots for Central, 1 spot for NA West, so there's lots to talk about, so let's get right into the mix. Before we get too deep into predictions, we had said there's a few teams that did miss out, big names on both NA West and NA Central that you will not see in this last chance lobby. So I'm going to quickly run over those teams before we get into the meat and potatoes of the rest of the video. Some of those teams include the Major 2 champions Acorn and Bolts from the last FNCS. They will not be there, including Muzz and Rise. So already 2 global championship competitive teams will not be in that last chance lobby. We're also missing out on Miro and Rezi, Boji and Electro, who I was watching having a last second splurge up that leaderboard. Unfortunately, it did get cut short. We're missing out on 20, Chip, Donnie, Tacky, Sandman, and Jack, and then Okus's return has been cut short. So this is the end of the road. If you don't already have your global championship spot and you're not in this finals lobby, that is it for you and FNCS for the rest of the year. In terms of duos, we still have solos, so don't forget that. We still have a stacked year ahead of us. On NA West, though, quickly talking about some notable teams. If you don't know this region, that's fine, but if you do, you will see some familiar names. We got Zafu and Bray, Luck and Centro, Soul KJ, Quinn and Typical Gamer, which I know is everybody's favorite team, Caesar, Gabix. Aviv actually came on from Central to try on NA West. He did not make it out in the top 25 of either of those qualifiers. Yumi and Zukis, and B-Dog and Dom. B-Dog is somebody who actually qualified for the Summit Land, didn't end up going, so it's unfortunate to see the actual fall from grace. So these are teams, plus many more, that missed out on the last chance global qualifier. If they don't already have their spot, well, good luck. We'll see you guys on the sidelines along with the rest of us, because I'll be calling all the action this Friday. But let me know in the comments below, is there any teams that you're missing out? Maybe some big names that I forgot to mention. This is where when we look into each of these qualifiers, you can kind of see a different vibe and feel of each of them on both of the regions. Honestly, in qualifier 1 on Central, you had some of the teams not necessarily take it as serious. Peterbot and Poyo trying to make sure Moneymaker and Fanayan didn't actually make it in, and so that's where it kind of left some spots open for grabs. This is where Higgs and Curve qualified. This is where Josh Niamzo, Shadow Virgo, Clicks Rapid, and you have so many more, Agers and Veno, that qualified through qualifier 1, and that kind of left qualifier 2 a make or break for a lot of these teams. We still missed out on Acorn, Bolts, Muzz, and Rise, and we almost missed out on Peterbot and Poyo. At the end of round 2, they needed big games, and they had another Peterbot and Poyo-esque performance. 48 eliminations. They didn't necessarily get the win, and that's what stopped them from actually dropping the 50 bomb, but that made it sure they made it to round 3, and then from round 3, again, they had some decent performances, big elimination games, along with Ritual and Cold, who actually missed out on qualifier 1 as well. So now that our top 50 teams are totally locked in, let's go ahead and take a look at the drop map. So when you look at this drop map, just remember things are always subject to change. Nothing is ever set in stone, even while the tournament is actually on. But the first thing you kind of notice is with Acorn and Bolts not in this lobby, Frosted Flats, uncontested by them, is now being taken over by Epic, Whale, and Pump, the FNCS Major 2 champions from NA West. 7-time now for Epic Whale. That is a 3rd title for Pump. They're going to get that uncontested, or at least for now. And then you kind of look elsewhere, and I kind of had me scratching my head. Josh and Niamzo, that had a phenomenal Major 2 performance with no drop spot, are now landing Heatwave Harbor, where Shadow and Virgo go, who are now landing Calamari Canyon, where King and Craze go, who are now landing at that split below Epic Whale and Pump, just to the west of Booga and Braids, who are contested by Vertify and Barney. So it just kind of leaves my head scratched again, because, you know, Agers and Veno, who won from Latte Landing triple contested, that's going to be contested by Matt added Chance Restry and Cries, I think his name was, forgive me if I'm wrong. They're now landing at north of the Battlewood, north of Ritual and Cold, who are still landing there. Higgs and Curve, north side of the map. Jargu and Carillion moving from the south side all the way up to the north, just west of Higgs and Curve. And then if you look for Clicks and Rapid, it seems for now they will be triple contested. Javi and Aminish, Clicks, Rapid, Ace and Dark, all seeming to mark that same drop spot. Visuals and Threats, uncontested. G-Money Void, Khaki Volts, Cayenne, and Magma, all triple contested. Sunken Shores, maybe there's a way you can kind of split that. I'm not sure if that's possible. So when I look at this map, I kind of look at who I think could actually qualify. Top two, there's probably going to be some roll down spots because you have so many global qualified teams already in here. I immediately look at Sphinx and Curly, who have kind of uncontested towards that top side of the mountain. Slepsy and Wagers, who have been playing super consistently as of lately. And then I start to look, maybe Jargoon and Carillion, they had a late summit qualify, and so they know they have what it takes to qualify to a land. But I'm also looking at visuals and threats. I know I picked more than two teams, and we could have so many more surprises because you still have Victor V and Queasy, top side of the map, contested by Pure and Wheeze. Some people might not know who Pure is. He's somebody that came on over from NA West. Don't know exactly where he lives, so I'm not sure where his ping is to be able to play on both of these regions. So he does have a lot of experience. So I wouldn't count him out. And then obviously Moneymaker Fanayan, contested by Soneto and Neo. I would think maybe you could throw Moneymaker Fanayan in the mix because finals have already showed that they don't necessarily need a drop spot. These lurk plays around the map can prove to be fruitful, even though Fanayan already came out and said he's done lurking around the map. Hey, you can't fix what isn't broken, and if it works, it works. So when I look at this map, I mentioned the teams that I think could take it all. There's only 2 spots up for grabs. Let me know in the comments below when it comes to Central who you got qualifying to the Global Championship. So when it comes to NA West, the best region in the world, by the way, I kind of look at it with a different vibe than Central, where Qualifier 1 was a little bit more lackadaisy. This one was where a lot of the best teams qualified. The return of Baka and Pars, we will see them in the last chance lobby. You had Sauko and Minute, you had Kanata and Art coming back on over from Central, reuniting back together, trying to give it the last hurrah for NA West. They all qualified in day one. This kind of gave an opportunity for some teams that didn't qualify, that may not necessarily be known as the best of best to make it in. I'm not going to necessarily mention, every single team on the map, but I'm proud to see Timko and Larkos actually team up. They're a team of players that I think on separate teams, they could kind of win the first place prize, but now together, I think they could be a huge threat for the lobby. You have Zyro and Darky when it comes to open stages or these early rounds of the tournament. They're usually always at the top of the leaderboard. They have short shines of greatness in the finals lobby, so I'm interested to see what they could do. Sauko and Minute playing together. Minute separated with B-Dog, who I already talked about, missed out on the actual last chance global qualifier. He's now playing with Sauko, which kind of made an interesting dynamic. Sauko actually proven, hey, maybe he is a good IGL, playing with Fact City, qualifying to the grand finals, actually putting up a top 20 performance, and then now kind of watching some of the scrims and even qualifying from Central Eval finals before in the past. He's somebody that could look out as a threat. But when we look at the actual drop map, though, this is where you start to ask the question, because it's only 1 spot up for grabs. I didn't mention every big name while going through the qualifiers because almost every single big name that you could think of on West did qualify, except for the few I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So this is where I kind of look at the drop map. I mentioned a couple players, Timko and Larkos. They will be uncontested at Lifty Lodge. Larkos formerly playing with Zeno on that drop spot. They have contended for some first place spots before. Now you're playing with Timko. Timko, I think, is somebody that can surprise you when it comes to fighting. He could be one of the best fighters on the region. I just need to see a little bit more to confirm that myself. So I'm interested to see how they perform now that they're playing together as a team. I wanted to see them play for Major 2, but now we're seeing it here with the last chance global qualifier. We have Enact and Z-Link taking the north side of the Battlewood, Raygun and Blood Gangsta towards the south. 2 teams that had a run for one of 2 global championship spots in Major 2. Unfortunately, they did miss out, even though Enact and Z-Link ended the entire tournament game 12, 15 elimination victory royale. Unfortunately enough, Phoenix Retro, Epic Whale Pump ran away with it just a little bit too far. It was too far gone to catch up. But then you have Arc and Kanata, uncontested at Calamari Canyon. Remember, only one spot up for grabs. Last time Kanata came on over to NA West, he qualified for the Summit Land, a victory in Major 1 with Victor V, and then he qualified to EWC, winning that qualifier as well. So they have to be one of the front runners. At Sinister Strip, though, we also have Salco and Minute. I want to talk a little bit about Phoenix and Retro, but they're already global qualified, so even if they win the entire tournament, it will roll down to the next spot. We also have Baka and Pars will be landing just north of them, where Sphinx and Curly landing at Central. That's where Baka and Pars will be expected to drop on NA West. With one shot to go, they return back together. Could this be the Baka and Pars miracle run? Latte landing Xeno and Suds, uncontested. Sixies and OC, uncontested. Vorks and Evolve, uncontested. All names I'm mentioning because I think they could have a run, especially if it remains uncontested. Salco and Minnow at Sinister Strip, though. Typically when it comes to West and I see teams looking for extra loot or lurking around the map or maybe trying to contest a spot, it seems to be Sinister Strip, so I would watch out there. Maybe Golden Grove as well, so it may not be uncontested for long. We have a triple contested Sanctuary. We got BX Caesars, Jules Bean, Peralta, and Devry, so that one's going to be interested. We have Zyro and Darky, somebody I just mentioned. Talk about performing very, very well in the early rounds. Also uncontested overall. Oliver OG qualifying with X-Pawn, but it does seem to be triple contested. Freeze, Mezega, Clouds, Beastie, all landing there as well. Maybe somebody will pick a different drop, but with only one spot up for grabs, I gotta kind of look at Arc and Kanata as one of those teams. I gotta maybe look at Timko and Larkos as one of those teams to possibly make it in. And then honestly, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think he's been on a little bit of a hot streak playing with Faxity. I think Salco and Mimic could probably sneak their way into contention. I think Salco has been kind of getting the earful from Agers, Rise, Faxity, all those guys through the Major 2 run. It was a great learning experience, even though he didn't necessarily place as high as he would want it. I think you got to take these opportunities and run with it. I know he's been streaming a lot, so I know he's been capitalizing on those opportunities. It's just how much information did he retain, and he's playing with Minute, who I think could be one of the greatest fighters when he's on fire. We didn't see that in Major 2, but I think this could be a shot at redemption. But when it comes to NA West, let me know in the comments below, who do you guys think is going to qualify? But that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know when it comes to Central West, who do you guys think is going to qualify for the Global Championship? Who do you guys think is the best chances? I think when it comes to NA West, with it only being one spot up for grabs, we are going to see an exciting 6 games. Make sure you guys check that one out. Be streaming live on my channel, casting it just like I would an actual FNCS lobby, which I'll be casting Central as well. But that's going to do it for me, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Beep, beep.